Out in Broomfield, where the foothills rise, there's a little place with open skies.
I'm Dr. Decibel, and this is episode 3 of This is the Refuge. Today, we're exploring the core values of presence, the work of simply showing up for each other over time until strangers become family. To help tell the story, I'm here with 2 people who embody this value every single day. Nanette Bezjak is our single moms coordinator and a steady presence at the cafe and just about every Refuge community gathering. And Andrea Gamboa is a part of our wider community, a volunteer peer advocate at the Refuge Cafe and a member of our outreach team. Their stories and the way they move through this community show what presence really looks like in practice. So let's get to it.
A wooden door, a welcome sign. It's more than walls, it's hearts combined.
Nanette and Andrea, thank you so much for being here with us today. Nanette, tell us a little bit about you and what you do here.
I'm Nanette Bezjak, and I work here at the Refuge. I am the Single Moms Case Manager Coordinator. So I run Single Moms Unite, which is our single parent support group and just a time for people to come together and have community. And then I'm in the cafe 3 days a week, so I'm part of our community care team, and I help just coordinate all the different pieces in the cafe.
I am Andrea, and I walked into the Refuge around 2 years ago as an unhoused person. And with time and support from my peers and people at the Refuge, I took a different direction.
What first brought you to the Refuge, Nanette?
So I found out about the Refuge about almost 12 years ago. I found out about the Refuge at Broomfield Days, and I was introduced to Kathy and Don Hyken, and they were at the time running Single Moms Unite. And so I started attending Single Moms Unite about 11 years ago when my youngest was a baby. About 6 years ago, I started coming and volunteering as a volunteer coordinator for the Single Moms group. And then during COVID, I was brought on as staff. We realized during COVID that our moms needed a lot more support. They were already isolated, and during COVID, it was really, really difficult. And so I came on as the case manager coordinator to help them. And I was based in the cafe, and then I just stay. I'm just in the cafe all the time.
So it was an overtime thing for you. Was there a moment that just kind of defined that this was a home for you?
When I was brought in to work in the cafe as the single moms liaison in the cafe, it really just felt like home. I had visited the cafe a couple of times before COVID, but really when I came in here and started working, started being on the floor, started volunteering my time, started engaging with all of our friends, it really felt like home. Kathy often tells me, you don't have to come in. You can do your other things. And I tell her, I'm like, no, you don't understand. I have to be here.
Andrea, what about you?
I came to the Refuge through the Colorado Safe Parking Initiative. I was brought here by one of our lot monitors that was also a health advocate here. And just as part of her routine as taking in people from Colorado Safe Parking and trying to get them resources, she brought me here to the Refuge. And I remember coming in and I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I just sat over there on the couches and just was sad in my world until people started coming up to me and talking. Then I opened up a little bit more and then needed to do something with my day because living in your car is long and hard. And so I started volunteering here, which just kind of bled into a lot of other different things that have got me to the point that I am right now.
Nanette, give us your definition of presence.
So I once heard somebody say that love shows up. And that is my definition of presence. You're there. You walk alongside that person, alongside that community. You show up. It's not about, it's just about being there. It's about being connected.
For me, I think it was the consistency of the Refuge and everyone here. I had lost a lot of hope in these types of places just because I was brought up in a really strict church and they were nice people on Sundays. And I think that the consistency of the Refuge was really something that I latched on to. It was every single day, every single person was always there. And I really appreciate that.
When you first came here and you weren't really engaging and you were sitting on the couch, but then people came and kind of drew you in, what does that look like in real time?
Just a few days.
Yeah? Yeah.
I think it probably took like maybe a week for me to start opening up. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to tell anyone my story. I didn't want to roll around in misery. So I just didn't really want to talk about it. But people were really persistent with being there. And so it happened pretty quickly where I said, oh, maybe they do care. Maybe I can talk to them.
What a difference, because I've known you for just a little while now, but I can't even imagine that person. You're one of the most engaging people here.
You would not believe who I was when I walked in the door. It was a completely different person. And I have evolved thanks to the Refuge.
And all those people being present
Yes.
when you needed them and showing up.
Absolutely.
Nanette, was there a time, maybe not even yourself, maybe someone else here, where you noticed that presence felt challenging? Maybe it required even a little courage.
I think on any given day, we are presented with people who are going through really, really hard times. And sometimes when people are going through difficult circumstances, they have a very tough, hard shell that's really hard to crack. And it can be really hard to connect with them. And they may come in angry, they may come in mad, they might come in with just a huge chip on their shoulder. And all I'm trying to do is offer you a cup of coffee. And so sometimes it can be really difficult to engage with those people. But like Andrea said, it takes a couple of days, it takes maybe a couple of weeks, and you will see that huge change because the Refuge is not like any other place in the world. We have our own culture, we have our own community. And so people will come in from outside shelters, and they are expecting something different. They're very much guarded. They're very tight. They're very afraid. And it takes just a couple of days for them to be in our community and see they don't have to be that way. And so, yes, we experience that on a probably a daily basis here, where we find people who are in very difficult situations, and we have to remind ourselves that they are going through really hard times.
Andrea, what about you?
I have experienced times where I felt overwhelmed because maybe something was happening to someone that I've personally been through. And so that's something that you just have to get used to, I think, and then just be really present and grounded and say, I'm not experiencing this. This person experiencing this. I have experience in this, so I can be there for them. But yeah, some of the things could be quite triggering sometimes. Yeah, it can be difficult.
Nanette, let's talk about your role as a single moms coordinator. Tell us about a time when presence mattered more than whatever the solution was.
I think that that's probably one of the most important things is having presence, because I can't fix everything. I don't have a magic wand. I don't have all the money in the world to be able to say I can fix this problem. I don't have the lawyers. I don't have the housing solutions. I don't have any of those things. But I do have my presence. And so sometimes just being that listening ear, sometimes just being that person who knows your name when you walk through the door, sometimes being that consistent person who is there, it makes the most difference. We have a friend here who has a medical condition, and I have walked alongside this friend multiple times when they are having a very scary medical episode. And that person has come to me and said that has made the biggest difference in their life, that I am more family to them than their family has ever been, just because I have been willing to sit beside them during that really hard time.
Andrea, you are the peer advocate here at the Refuge. Tell us a little bit about the outreach that you do.
So outreach is really important because we have about 300 unhoused people in Broomfield, and maybe less than half of them come to the Refuge. So there is a lot of people that either don't feel safe coming or don't know where it is, don't know what we're about. So it's really important to just go out and find them and try and find that connection with them so that we can build trust with them and potentially get them to come here. And if not, just to talk to us and to trust that maybe we can help them or we're someone that they can come to.
And the trust is huge. I want to take a pause here for a minute because there may be some people listening to this podcast that don't understand what it's like to go to a shelter. Trust and safety is a huge issue. And I don't think most people realize is that oftentimes shelters are not the safest place for an unhoused person to go, especially if they're a little unbalanced or maybe a little weaker and can't defend themselves. Andrea, talk about what it means to walk alongside people without fixing them.
It's kind of hard. I think it's something that you have to learn because I have a tendency to want to help and want to fix and want to do it immediately. So really after taking the peer support specialist course, learned that probably holding space is more important than actually trying to fix people's problems because one, like Nanette said, you cannot fix everything, even if you want to. You don't have the capacity for that. So I think that just being present and just being available is probably more important than actually trying to fix the problem. And I learned that, I think, really being a SWAP resident assistant for the Severe Weather Activation Program, where our role is to be present and to be a liaison between the hotels, the guest, and Almost Home, which was who presented that. And there's really not a whole lot as a SWAP RA that you can do except be present. And for me, being in that position helped me forge a really solid relationship with a lot of the unhoused population of Broomfield.
Nanette, can you share a small moment that you had with someone that helped build some trust?
I can't think of a specific moment right off the top of my head here because there's so many of them.
Sure.
Because that's really what we do every single day. But I can think of moments where people have come in and they're new to our culture, they're new to our community, they're new to the refuge. And so an example that we have here is like people will come in and it might be their first time and they will come and they will fill their plates just heaping full, right? Because they're so afraid that there's not going to be more. So they'll fill their plate just so full and we'll often see them like throw it away later or whatever. But that's the thing is once they come here, they start building that trust that we're going to continue to provide, that we're going to continue to walk alongside them, that they don't have to take everything that's put out. They can leave it for other people too. And they can believe that they're going to be taken care of.
Andrea, let's talk about a moment when someone who started out as a stranger, maybe you met in your outreach, and then ended up becoming a part of your personal community.
I have to say that that's happened to me on both sides of the fence. On the side of the fence where I was an unhoused person and the side of the fence where I was a peer advocate and volunteer here. It has truly happened to me on both sides. As a peer advocate, especially in the Severe Weather Activation Program, like I said, I forged really solid relationships with a lot of the unhoused population. More with some than with others, but honestly with all of them at some level. And I have grown to care more on a personal level because it's hard to make that separation, to where you're saying I'm a professional, they need help, or I'm actually a person that cares about this person. That's happened to me with people that I've worked with that are homeless. And then it's also happened to me on the other side as a peer advocate. And it's just your vibe attracts your tribe. We are all people that have the same goals, which are to help other people. So just having that similar base, we just all kind of gravitated to each other. And Nanette, in the past couple of years, has become a very good friend of mine. Probably it's really hard to make friends as an adult. So the ones that I have made now are really solid. And she's the first person I'd call if I had a problem, which I have, and she's always been there for me. But not just her partner, Steve, also, who's a good friend of mine. And Ned also. And, there's just so many people here. We go back to the consistency of the refuge and the people of the refuge. No matter how much time has passed or how much time we have, I know that I can reach out and that they're going to be there for me. And that's really something that I never really experienced in my life until I got here.
Nanette, what keeps you committed to this work?
The magic that happens in this place. I have, over the years, seen so many things happen in this building, and it is truly magical what happens at the refuge. The connections that are made, the love that is shared, the healing that is happening here, it is truly, truly magical.
What about you, Andrea?
I think there was a point in my life, I know there was a point in my life where I had literally lost everything. Not just everything that I possessed, but everything that was important to me. So walking in that door as an unhoused person, and the fact that that lit a fire in me saying, oh, that person over there looks like they might need something. I'm going to go talk to them. So it ignited something inside of me that made me want to be present and help.
Nanette, tell me something. What do you wish that people listening to this podcast understood about showing up for others that they might not?
That even the smallest little act of kindness can have such a huge effect on somebody's life.
The ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea, what about you? What would you tell anyone that might not necessarily understand?
I think now more than ever, homelessness is way more spread out than it used to be. It used to be considered something that people with addiction would go through, or people with just mental illness. But now we're seeing a lot of people, a lot of seniors who are unable to pay for their rent, or a lot of normal people. So I would like society to be a little more open-minded about what being homeless really means and how people got there, because it's really easy. Most people are one paycheck away from being homeless. So that's a message that I would like to see people more aware of, that homelessness is not a pinpointed thing anymore. It is all around you, and everybody is in danger of it. Everybody.
There's a spectrum and there's levels, and there's tent homeless, and there's hotel homeless, and there's van homeless, and there's scraping by in the shelter homeless. So I think that many people just see one thing and one story. And I think, as we all three understand, there's a lot of different stories. Everyone's got their own, and they're all unique. None of them are the same. Andrea, let's talk about the process of breaking down isolation through presence.
It's liberating because I think that a lot of people that come in here have lost hope and obviously don't feel like they have anyone, can't count on their family or have friends. They're out there on their own, and even if they did have it, they don't feel like they have it. So for me, it was, it's kind of like you're in this like temper tantrum thing in your life inside, right? You're mad and you're upset and you're dark, and there's all these little lights flickering around you, and it's just like, well, okay, well, I have a choice. I can sit in my darkness, or I can focus on a flicker of light, which turns into a brighter light, which turns into an open door, which turns into a community, which turns into, now you feel supported. It's extremely important.
Nanette, why do you think community takes time? Why does it happen so slowly?
It goes back to that whole trust piece. I have been in communities where you think that things are right, and there's that underlying wrongness that just doesn't fit, that's just something not right there. And so to be able to have that trust, to be able to build that trust, that to know that that I can call this person and they're going to show up for me, to know that I'm going to show up and provide food or a presence for them, or to just show up for them, to know that that's going to be a consistent piece. It takes time to build that.
Thank you both so much for being here with me today. Listening to Nanette and Andrea, it's clear that presence is rarely loud or dramatic. It's built from moments, showing up, checking in, listening, sitting with someone instead of trying to move them somewhere. The Refuge becomes a family because people like them choose to keep showing up again and again until trust has the time to grow. Presence turns strangers into neighbors, neighbors into friends, friends into family. Thank you, Nanette and Andrea, for offering your stories and your hearts today. Thanks for joining us for episode 3 of This is the Refuge. And thank you, Nanette and Andrea, for the work that you both do and for sharing what presence looks like in real life. Next time, we will continue exploring the values that shape this community. For more information about the Refuge, visit therefugeonline.org. I'm Dr. Decibel. This is the Refuge, a community shaped by presence, courage, creativity, and hope. Show up where you are. We'll meet you here next time.